Support provided by Walters, Papillon, Thomas Cullins, LLC, specializing in business litigation and personal injury cases for over 40 years.
Well, thank you very much. When I joined the Rotary in Atlanta some years ago, I guess 2008, they said, now, General, we're not going to call you General. We're going to call you Russ. I said, if that fits you, that's okay with me. And then he said, I'm Dr. So-and-so. But I kind of feel like the 1 o'clock algebra teacher. I know what I got to do. I just got to figure out how I'm going to make it exciting. We're going to talk about water today. Now, I'm here for an ask. I've already been set up by some experts in what Rotary do, because we do good. We do it with a purpose, and we tell the truth. Now, I'm going to tell you the truth. We can get this done real quick, and then we can talk about issues that we can do something about right here in Louisiana, if we can get people to raise their hand. Now, if everybody raises their hand, the challenge is $10 a member, but $10 is not going to get us there. You with me? I do watch Sunday morning church. And I need you to give till it hurt, because the babies we getting water for, many of them got to walk 3 miles a day to get water. And by the time we go to bed tonight, 4,000 babies going to die in the world because they don't have clean water. 4,000 a day. Current information from UNICEF, verified by the UN and others. 4,000 babies die a day, infants under 5 years old, because of bad water. So you can get 2 cheeseburgers from your favorite place, double size, and that'll get to $10. That's what that's worth. Okay? Or you can give up a round of golf, or you can give up a day of vacation, or you can give up a fishing trip, because what I'm asking you to do is give till you have to sacrifice something. If you just throw the change out of your pocket, that won't get us there. But I'll tell you what I'll do. If you give over $100, I'll give you one of my books. They're hard to come by. And I sell them for $20 a piece. And they pay my car note, so they all still sell it. Both of these have a chapter about water. This will tell you that the next wars will be over water as we go from 7 to 10 billion people, because only 1% of the world's water is drinkable. 1%. Majority of the Earth's surface is covered by water, and we get deceived that everybody has clean water. It's not a fact, because by default, the way the Earth was made, only 1% of the Earth's water is safe to drink. And of that, some of that has been polluted. And in my more recent book, Don't Get Stuck on Stupid, which has a separate chapter on water. And a lot of that is local information that you could use. So the ask is, will everybody give at least $10? Raise your hand. Everybody will give at least $10. Look like we got a full house, Miss Sheriff. Now we're going to work on the people to try to get them $200 or $300 gifts. But you need a little information, because you got to go home and share this with the rest of your giving. And this is the background information on what you're going to give to, now that everybody is committed. Next slide, please. Oh, Lord. Russ don't do machinery too good here. Okay, next slide. I'm giving orders to myself. Holy Lord. This is a club just like us. They meet in a hotel in the evening, and they do good for the community, just like we do. And this program is sponsored by Rotary International, and for the money we give, they're going to give us a matching 50 cents. So it is significant this money get turned over for every dollar we give. So let's be generous, and those of you that's going to join the $100 club, Miss Sherry will have your book. I'll put your name on it, and we'll bring it to the next meeting, or you can pick it up at the Rotary office. Is that a deal? and I'll have them there by tomorrow. This is where it's located. You see the equator there, the little village right there, Elderton. Just south of that is where the project will go in. The nickname for it, the acronym is WASH, and this is what we're talking about doing. Basic human service. In the dry season, they have to walk 3 miles for clean water. This will service 3,000 students with clean water, so they can wash their hands at school, take a shower at school, have clean water at school. Remember how many of these babies die a day globally because they don't have clean water. And this is a description of what the project will do. Just basic engineering, drilling a hole in the ground, putting some filters on it, and providing clean water. %40 of the homes have no toilets. You can imagine what that's like in that human environment along the equator. When you bring all these kids to school, this is going to solve that problem. And that's what contributed to all these babies dying, so many of them in the course of a day. Of the 7 billion people in the world today, 2 billion don't have access to clean water. It's a crying shame in the 21st century. But that's the way it is. We're going to do something about it because we're Rotary, right? Right? Yes. Right? Right? All right, I hear the $100 club starting to get serious out there. This is a map of the village and the network of the people that will get served. This is the infrastructure, folks. It's sad, but it's true. This is a situation. If we can save these babies, they could grow up and be productive farmers, teachers, engineers, you name it. They can participate, but they need a chance. And this is a picture of the human capital we're investing in. If you just take a look at your table today, you've been presented a bottle of clean water. Please don't leave that water here. We want to change our culture that we will not waste water. You with me? And we might ask the staff in the future to only put the tea to the people that want it. Because our biggest challenge in America is that we're wasting water. The United States uses 20 times more water than the people in Europe. And they're an industrialized country. So it's not that we don't have enough water, it's what we do with it, that which you have. And you look at the contrast of what these people are going through just to be able to live in a sanitary condition. This is why we're doing it. Again, this is the prize. This is where we need your help. For every dollar we raise, you're going to get 50 cents. Now, who's the financial management in here? Who can give you that kind of return on your investment, right? For every dollar we raise, we're going to get 50 cents. So we need your help. And that's the bottom line. Okay, how many members we got in the $100 club? I need to know how many books I need to take to Miss Sherry. Put your hand up. Some of you ain't had your hand high enough. Okay, Miss Sherry, I'm counting at least 25 books I got to drop off this evening. I'm going to drop off 40 because I think some people are going to have a conscience on the way home. If you ain't hurting, you ain't giving enough. We need your help. With me today is my backup, is my right-hand advisor, Mr. Hayes Town, who works right here in Baton Rouge, one of our great residents who over the years started a project of keeping Baton Rouge drinking water safe. Next to him is Mary Lee Orr from Louisiana Environmental Action Network, and Ms. Kathy Wascom, who does our legislative liaison at the Capitol for the Green Army. And next to her is a great citizen, Ms. Laura. She's 84 years old, drove here from Hammond this morning. How about a round of applause, Ms. Laura? Thank you. Now we've got a few minutes left. You may have seen this in the paper last week. We should not be surprised by this. Because the perception we have in Louisiana, we got a lot of water. Most of the time we got too much water, and it's in the wrong place. The challenge is throughout our state, our challenge is our water systems that were put in after the Second World War, when many of us who grew out in the country went from a water well in the backyard to rural water systems. Those systems have deteriorated over time, and they're causing problems. And as you can see here, the governor has designated a task force. We stumbled into this thing bad in the year 2000. Because just when we should have been reinvesting in assessing, we cut back on the number of government employees we had going out testing water. Governor John Bell Evans 2 years ago put 40 more people back in the Department of Health to test for water because they had cut their staff and they stopped testing. During that time, what we've stumbled in is to some great disasters at the local level. And the challenge is this. Of the 1,300 public water systems we have, 400 of them are at issues. Many of us know people that live in the country now. If you go to Ville Platte, they're drinking brown water. If you go to Jennings, Louisiana, the water is brown, and people use it for around the house for different things, some of them for washing, but they buy their water at the grocery store for 25 cents a gallon. Many of our rural water systems are non-sustainable. They've been paying, as in the case of one I'll show you in a minute, $15 to $20 a month. The EPA has clearly said it takes $34 to get clean water to your front door. How many of you are paying over $34 a month for water? Okay, it shows that water is a cash cow in America. But the actual price is about $34 a month for the average household. This is our aquifers. We are blessed here with the Southern Hill Aquifer. 83% of the Southern Hill Aquifer, which covers 5 parishes that are regulated by the Capital Area Groundwater Commission, is used right here in East Baton Rouge Parish. 83% of the water from that aquifer. This product is a result of data from the USGS and has been taught all over this town by Mr. Hayes Town, who put this information together. And our challenge at Baton Rouge is saltwater intrusion, as that salt water is coming from the Gulf and trying to make its way into our freshwater aquifer, which comes from the direction of Mississippi. And as we take the water pressure down in Baton Rouge, that water is coming from the south and coming in and filling that gap. Thus the word saltwater intrusion. And it's been studied over and over for over 17 years now, and we've got to determine our path forward, because at this rate, that aquifer is in trouble. We have the Chico Aquifer that covers southwest Louisiana, that includes Acadia and Calcasieu Parish, and that aquifer also is a challenge. If you want these slides, Ms. Sherry will send them to you after the briefing. And the Sparta Aquifer in the north, you can see it is also challenged, with the majority of it being used between agriculture and industrial. I'm sorry, civil and industrial use. The good news in Sparta, if they bring a new industry on, they take somebody else off. They don't add to the reduction in the Sparta aquifer. This speaks to the age of the systems. This information provided by Louisiana Environmental Action Network, Mayor Leore and her team. We had an issue last year with the St. Joe system. The governor spent nearly $9 million in there to fix that system. The pipes that collapsed, we put the new system in, and there's still a disaster. Why? Because the poor people in St. Joe, many of them, we have at least 10 homes that need new plumbing, and we got 15 homes that need hot water heaters. Their white appliances were contaminated. I'll be back, because we're going to be raising money for that soon to help the people of St. Joe. Why they don't have it? Because they're poor. They live on government assistance, and we put the new pipe in front of their house, but they need new plumbing, and they need at least 15 hot water heaters. And we're working through a funding mechanism to ask people so we can go finish that project. But St. Joe was an atypical situation. $20 a month, it costs $32 to $34 to put it at your front door. Not sustainable. The government came up with money. The other problem with the small towns, they don't audit, they can't pass an audit. In the case of St. Joe, they were using the money from the water to put tires on one of the 2 police cars. They have no income. And you read that story in the Advocate earlier this month, in the last month, about the dilemma we have in how we sustain our small town. Water is not one of them. We've got to consolidate to sustain our water systems. The Green Army, this is our legislative effort in the last few years. We've gotten very little out of committee. We did get a one out of committee this year by Representative Hunter that will give us the ability to test for lead in water in schools, 12 schools that were built, I think, before 1984, right?
86.
Huh?
86.
Before 86. So that is a major accomplishment just to be able to get that through the legislature. Because we have good ideas on what we can do to get community involvement and make the systems more sustainable, but there's opposition out there to making these changes. In the meantime, our cousins who live out in the country, most of them are buying their water and they're drinking bottled water in many of the rural communities in Louisiana. And that's the challenge. Who's in charge of water? At the federal level, it's the EPA as far as drinking water. In the state of Louisiana, I don't know how we got this twisted on this, but we ended up, we put drinking water in the Department of Health. And we've got a good man there by the name of Dr. Guidry. Excellent guy. But the problem is his background, he's a pediatrician. Good man. But when we deal with the federal government, we got to deal through who? The EPA. If you got a problem with your drinking water here, you go to the Department of Health, whose staff have been cut significantly over the last decade, which was a problem in that they had gone so far that they cut the inspectors that were going out and inspect the water. So I want you to be informed. You can have these slides, and we all, our level of participation, call your legislature and say, hey, we want to know what we're going to do to save our state waters because we don't want to lose our rural communities over water. We don't want our kids to start getting sick because of those old rural bad water systems. There's water available, and there's grants available for these rural and aging water systems. The problem is you've got to be able to pass the audit. And a lot of these part-time, small-time government, they can't pass the audit. The governor in both cases at St. Joe and now in Jennings has had to appoint a state employee to go there to clean the books up. If you don't have clean books, you can't apply for a loan. The good news is the money is there. We got billions of dollars that's available at the federal level, but you've got to be able to pass the audit. You would think the challenges we have in Louisiana, we'd be leading the country and asking for water for money. We're not. We're not on the chart. Who's on the chart? New York. Okay? Ohio, California. And you can go online. We don't even measure a tick on the chart because we have not been putting in the money for the grants. If you don't ask for the grants, you're not going to get the loans or grants from the federal government. And every American is entitled to clean drinking water. Look, drinking water in America is an issue. Over 50% of the aquifers in the Midwest are drawn down, below 50%. This is information just came out, and even Mr. Pruitt admitted we got a problem with our water, based on a meeting they had last week. So we need to be informed. That might be the last one, and I'm done. How much time we got for question, boss?
About 10 minutes.
10 minutes for question. Okay, I'm ready. Let's not forget today. The day is 6th June. And don't let your head hit the pillow tonight without remembering what happened on 6th June and the sacrifice that people made so we could sit here today. Many of them weren't old enough to be in the service. but they lied to go serve their country. And on the beaches of Europe, they attacked when they were asked to serve, and many of them never again lived to come home and smell or touch their mama or loved ones waiting for them. And some families lost multiple children that day, a battle in which 9,000 casualties were seen on the D-Day invasion. Let us not forget, all I'm asking you for is $100. That's what they did for us, so we could be here today. That's sacrifice. What I'm asking you to do is sacrifice on a whole different level. But make sure you go home today and you sit down with your children and you make sure they know what this day really means. And from this day forward, you circle it on your calendar and you remind them that because of what they did, Europe has the longest sustaining history of peace in recorded history because of what they did. Sacrifice. Now, let's get the $200 club started. Raul, I know you're going to lead that. That was worth at least $200, wasn't it? All right, you with me. So we got one 200 here. Yes, ma'am.
I'm a 200, by the way.
Okay.
Is the Corps of Engineers more receptive and helpful than they have been in the past in regard to our water issues?
The Corps of Engineers, by statute, they're in charge of navigable waters and floodwaters. That's why they were established. And they've done some of their best work here along the Mississippi River, with one of the biggest projects in the history they've ever done is the Chafalá spillway that starts up in Morganza. The answer to the question is Corps Engineers are restricted by their budget. The challenge is their levees are old and they need to be reinforced and replaced. And it's hard to get them to admit that, but those levees are at risk. The thing we have to remember, though, on any given day, Mother Nature can break anything built by man. And if we build it, then the other challenge we've got is stupid people can go out and do stupid things and break the levee, like those barges they left untied in New Orleans during Katrina. So if you live behind a levee, you need to be prepared to evacuate it. How many of you live south of Hollow Road? Be ready to evacuate. Because that high water line is on the high side of Hollow Road. You know when you go to Hollow Road and it goes like this? Everything south of that, all LSU, all that's in the flood zone. And I'm stupid enough, that's where I went by. How in the hell could that happen? But it happened. That's the flood zone. The difference is today, ma'am, and we say the Corps respond to Congress and senators. We put 100 chemical plants between here and New Orleans, inside the flood zone. Their problem is their budget. They know what they got to do, they don't get the money. That's the challenge. Yes, sir.
General, do you know how much it would cost to get the large industrial users off the aquifer start using the Mississippi River water? And do you ever see that there'd be some government grants or tax incentives, credits to get some movement to make that happen?
Yeah, we've tried to make that a conversation to compensate them with tax exemptions. The two biggest users, and I won't mention because they're friends and partners, and a lot of our relatives work there, but you know who they are. One used $22 million. They've reduced their use by maybe 40% over the last 20 years. The other one is just use about $66 million a day. And I think there's a conversation we ought to have that will help compensate them to help them earn some of the tax exemptions by using that money. But on the other hand, their competition use river water. You know, if you go to Shell and Dow, they use river water. Now, that would prolong the life expectancy, we believe, of the Southern Hill Aquifer. But it's a conversation we ought to have. And if we got some people in the club that's willing to facilitate that conversation, because we want those companies to do well too, right? We just want to do what? We want them to try and use river water so we can prolong the life of the Southern Hill Aquifer. Y'all agree with me on that? Do you agree with me on that? All right, you got to speak up. Thank you for asking that question. All right, anybody else ask a question, you'll automatically be a member of the $200 club. Water, we got less clean drinking water today in the world than we had yesterday. And the truth be known, we're going to have less tomorrow than we got today. I want you to think about these babies in Kenya, but I want you to think about the babies in Jennings and in Ville Platte and St. Joe and Waterproof and Tallulah and New Roads and Napoleonville and Donaldsonville and New Orleans. New Orleans water system is very vulnerable. 25% of the water they clean in New Orleans escapes through bad pipes because they need to replace their water system. Rotarians, the best thing I can give you is your time back, and you give me $200. Thank you very much.
Support provided by Walters, Papillon, Thomas Cullens, LLC, specializing in business litigation and personal injury cases for over 40 years.